I told you, man. If you're gonna quote a Disney movie, you got to make sure you do it right. I can't be affiliated with a misquote.
It, but it's not even a popular. Like it is a popular. Like people know of the movie, but no one knows that quote.
You can never be too sure with Disney adults, bro. Like if it's affiliated with a Disney movie, we just got to make sure it's right because
But it's
I'm
not
not
even a
going
main
down.
character. It's
I
not
know.
even a main character.
Look, I
Like
understand, I get it, but I'm not going down with the ship on that one. Like either we need to scrub that clip or we need to do some damage, or you need to do some damage control. I would never make that
no,
mistake.
no, I'm not gonna
You don't know the
bend.
power of Disney adults. They will come for us. We will lose whatever following we have. We will get demonetized. Spotify will probably sue us. They have
No,
power, dude.
they're not Swifties. They don't have as
Who do you
much power.
who do you think are Swifties? Disney adults. They're one and the same. I'm telling you.
They do check out the Venn diagram, as we
Yeah.
jokingly say, is just a circle.
Yeah. I know the power of my people.
I
know it was an honest mistake, but I just either we need to scrub it or we need to nip it in the bud.
No.
Okay,
it's a great video myself. Really shows my best features.
Well, it's been nice doing this podcast. I think our LLC is probably going to get a cease and desist. So,
for that, it does make me worried because I do have a Disney Plus subscription, and so if you
not anymore,
die at the park, they say you go straight to arbitration because you signed up for a Disney Plus trial account, not even a full account.
Yeah.
So I'm going to piss off some more of you Disney-ophiles.
Don't do it, man.
I can't remember which comedian said it, but they said, Mickey is a nickname that friends use. And let me tell you, Michael Mouse is no friend of mine.
Oh, boy. Well, I guess we'll just see what happens.
I'll do an apology video if that will make you happy.
I would appreciate it. Just because my people, they get very. I'm not one of them like that way, but I just know how sensitive they can be.
If it takes care of everything, then I'm fine to do it. Like,
I was thinking we could scrub it, but maybe this is just the drama.
You can't scrub the internet. Once it's out there, it's out there.
Yeah, that's true. We don't have the power to do that. So
no, we
don't have the resources.
Apology. We don't even have the resources to produce our own podcast.
We do not. It's been rough. Sorry about all of the in-person episodes turning out like shit. I'm not much of a producer.
We didn't have the correct equipment. Damien lives next to an airport, so that didn't help anything. So
I live next to an airport on the ocean, surrounded by the Beach Boys.
Yep. You actually live in Terminal 5 of LAX.
I'm actually just Tom Hanks from the terminal.
See, at least he was like at JFK. If he was at LAX, he would have left a lot quicker. He would have been like, this place is worse than a prison.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
prisons at least have enough seats. LAX Terminal 5 does not.
You got to sleep on the floor.
People were.
I know you were.
No, I was just eating a $20 sandwich on the floor.
Off the floor. It dropped off of somebody's cart and you picked it up like a rat.
I had to beat 5 other people for that sandwich.
It was like a Black Friday sale.
Hey, the lady with the Dollar Tree bag as her carry-on.
At least it's see-through, so there's nothing illegal in there.
That's true. It's a lot of choices were made by both of us, and it's
hard to know who looked worse.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, maybe I'll just say this: until you apologize or correct your mistake about the Goofy,
it's going to come out as soon as we're done recording this episode. I'll do
But
it.
until you do that, you look worse than that lady with the Dollar Tree bag. So just let that be a lesson to you.
Uh, Fair enough. I can do that.
All right.
We can.
Well, welcome back to the Triple R
Hey,
podcast.
all you.
Hey, whoa, we're here. We're back. Uh, anyways, on to real business. We're probably going to cut that whole 5 minutes, but I thought it was important in case we don't. We need to do something.
In case I don't make the video, you can hold it over me.
Yeah, but maybe our first, drama will be good for the podcast. I don't know. Maybe it'll attract some attention.
Our first scandal.
Yeah, first Triple R scandal of many, I'm sure. But anyways, I got a really good question the other day at work, and
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about it on the podcast because I have somebody who I work with. Let's just call them Dave. He was asking me because he knows I'm from Nebraska, and he's from Florida. And do you think that there is a trend or like a habit of different people from different places about what the inside of their car looks like? In essence, like what does somebody keep in their car from the Midwest as opposed to any of the coasts or the South or anything like that? So it made me wonder, growing up in the Midwest and then you coming to California and taking several
Yeah.
Ubers and stuff, what do you think the difference is between what is in people's car from the Midwest and from the coasts?
I would say probably like winter accessories.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably like a vague term, but like ice scrapers, like I'm guessing when you moved, you're just like, fuck these ice scrapers. We don't need them
I
anymore.
actually burned them in a bonfire.
That's not good. Those are mostly plastic.
What's wrong with that?
I think burning plastics in California is probably illegal, but
Oh, I mean, I did it in Nebraska.
oh, okay,
Yeah,
that checks out. That's 100% legal.
yeah, that's totally legal.
They
You can
actually
burn whatever you
encourage it.
want.
You
Yeah,
burn your trash here.
yeah, you can
That's
burn whatever you want here in Nebraska.
yep. I would say that, and it's always funny. Like ice scrapers aren't that expensive, but I have one that is I don't even know how old. It might be older than me, but it's just
Yeah,
like it's like I got it when I was 16 for my first car, and I just keep using it. At this point, there's no like edge blade to it, so I'm just like scraping it like just plastic against glass,
yeah.
and it's not really doing anything. And
Talk about return
yeah,
on investment, though. Got
yeah,
a
that thing is,
$4 ice scraper and you've used it for 15 years.
dude. It was probably free. It has like a bank logo on it. To a bank we never banked at, so that's the bigger question. I was like, how did we steal this?
Your parents went to that bank one time like 40 years ago for a
Yeah.
mortgage estimate, and they're like, "Oh, we don't want to do business here. Like, please take this ice scraper with you."
Also, that does seem like the most like Midwest thing, though. Like a free ice scraper
That
from a
is
bank.
that is the thing about especially Nebraska in specific. The swag from the companies is actually
Yes.
very useful, as opposed to it just being like a little trinket or something like that you're going to throw away, or just a lot of times it's just a business card. I'm like, I'm using this for kindling in my bonfire. I'm not going to use that. In the Midwest, it's like a frisbee that you can,
Yeah.
roll a joint on, or like, use for its intended purposes, or an ice scraper, or one of the things. To go back to the question, one of the things that's always in Midwest cars that you always need is jumper cables.
Yeah, that
I
is.
haven't needed a jumper cable since I've been here.
Yeah, I guess because yeah, batteries in the winter just die
Yeah,
all the time, and so or like if you don't have someone in the very near vicinity probably has some.
yeah, and if your car ends up dying somewhere in the Midwest, somebody will have their jumper cables and will come and help you.
Yeah.
If your car dies here, people just point and laugh. We actually just saw a car get one of the classic ran out of gas literally right
Oh,
outside the parking lot of the
yeah.
gas station yesterday, and we just drove past like, ooh, that sucks. Been there, but just kept driving. If I was in Nebraska, I would have hopped out and helped him push it.
Yeah, how that isn't. I guess I was just thinking about. I was like, I've pushed a lot of cars
Oh
that
yeah.
like I did of strangers. It was just
Oh,
like
mine were all mine.
Davian's like, oh god damn it, it died again. We got to get out of this major intersection.
Oh, every single time. It's always a left turn across traffic is when my
Oh
cars
yeah,
die.
I've had it where it's in the drive-through of like a busy fast food restaurant.
That's always a fun one. Have you ever
Yep.
fallen asleep in the drive-through because you were too high?
No, that's illegal,
Working
Damien.
working in fast food for a few years,
Yeah,
I had that experience twice. Somebody was waiting in line in the drive-thru. They had already ordered. They pulled up
yeah.
and were waiting to pay. And then all of a sudden, there's just no more cars coming up to the window to pay. And you look out, and the car's just idling there in the drive-through. Yeah, we've had to wake people up from a stupor before.
Wasn't that happening in California? Like when Teslas first came out with like autopilot, people being like too reliant. It was before like they put in like you had to touch the steering wheel every so often, and like
Mm-hmm.
people were just like drunk, passed out, and just the fucking Tesla flying down the freeway.
And then it just dies and then bursts into flames.
Yeah,
Yeah, that happened quite a few times. Can't wait to get mine in the mail.
your Tesla.
Yeah.
That sounds about right. Yeah, I'm trying to like what do Californians even keep in their cars? Like you don't need
Well,
anything. Water? Do you keep water?
no, because that causes cancer. Um,
Water causes cancer.
yeah, bottled water
That
in the
yeah, I get
sun.
yeah, that's true. Cause yeah, I every like half the cars I saw in California, the paint looks like shit,
Oh yeah.
which you informed me of like is because it's so sunny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just
But
bleaches the paint. But
and no one parks in garages is another thing I
no.
realized.
Well, the garage is a storage space, so you can't park your car in there.
I
That's where all
get
my
that.
boxes of junk that I'll never use go.
Versus that's why we have basements in the Midwest.
Exactly. Exactly. No, when it comes to Midwest cars, something that I've noticed as a difference since moving here is cars in the Midwest not only have survival things like blankets and
Yeah.
ice scrapers and like the classic hand warmers or foot warmer,
Yep.
extra hoodies, all that stuff. They also in the Midwest love to fill their cars with junk while simultaneously always offering to drive other people around. And so they're like, "Oh yeah, I can drive us." And then as you're opening the passenger side door, they're like, "Oh, don't worry, bro. Just move that hamster into the back seat." You're like, "What the fuck are you? Why is all this
Just
stuff here?" It's like assorted computer parts with like a hamster wheel and like one shoe out of a pair, and it's ripped. It's like, why is all this shit in here?
it's yeah. I or it's either like good like donations to Goodwill that are like
Yes.
they've been in the back seat for like 3 months. You're like, oh, I'll get around to that. You're like, we just drove past two Goodwills on the way. It's like, no, I'll get to it,
Yeah, but
man.
I'm in a
Like,
hurry. I can't stop right now. It's like three full Costco trash bags of clothes that no longer fit you because you've eaten too much corn in the last 3 years.
and milk,
The major food groups.
corn and milk. It's
That's why I'm
or
big and
it
strong.
or it's just like a lot of empty Gatorade bottles.
Or full.
Yeah,
But not with Gatorade.
just a lot. Yeah,
Hey,
it's
look, we
yeah,
can't we can't stop all the time on the road trips that we take.
just scoot it over, man. Or no, don't go in on that door. You got to go through the other door. There's too much stuff on
Yeah,
that.
go in through the driver's side back door, and then
Yes.
sit behind the driver who's all the way pushed back in order to be able to push the pedal. So you're sitting there with your knees to your chest next to a hoarding station.
Yeah.
I've
God.
noticed that that
When
does not
when was
happen
the
here.
last time you were in a coupe car?
My old car, probably
I like
my two seater or my 2 door.
I used to have like a really good bit. Like one of my first jokes I ever wrote was about like,
Well, you should let other people tell you it's a good bit.
yeah. Now people did.
People did.
They
They
did.
told
They
me.
laughed. They laughed. Now that I can't remember the joke, I just remember the punchline being like,
Coupe
um,
cars are weird.
essentially being like with it. Oh, it started off like teens these days, like statistically have less sex than like past generations, and it like
Mm.
ended up like, yeah, kids aren't like getting a way too dry handy in the back of a 2-door coupe hyperventilating because he's claustrophobic. See, you laughed. It's a good bit.
All right, all right. What's the deal with coupe cars?
Dude, and
Nobody's getting wet hand jobs anymore.
like because everyone's like first car is like a coupe in the Midwest. I don't know if it
Yeah.
is anywhere else. But like I was always the skinniest one, so it's like I'm in the middle seat of the
Yeah.
back of the coupe, which
No
is not
seatbelt.
it's not supposed to be a seat. And I'm also like a little tall-ish. In the Midwest, I'm like average height, but out in LA, I was tall, which was kind of fun. Um, and like, so there's already no leg room in the coupe, and but then you also have that like the center console. So I'm like just like spread trying to like fit, and the ceiling's way too low, so I'm like hunched over. Just hey guys,
Yeah. Your shoulders are on the front two seats. Your head is
yep.
in between like the center console, and you are split like a log in the middle of the back seat.
I'm like a golden retriever with my head, just been like, hey, where we going, guys?
That's where all the drool stains came from.
Yes.
I thought it was from that sloppy wet hand job, but nope, it's just Christian drooling all over like a freaking Saint Bernard. Beethoven's fifth.
If they, I don't know if they made it to 5 Beethoven dog movies,
No, you're the fifth.
but if they did, it should be Beethoven's fifth.
Oh, Christ almighty.
I'm trying to think of other random ass things that are even in my car. Like I have a like a tailgate camping chair
Okay.
to have because you go to like things where like outdoor concerts are really big, in the Midwest during the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just have chairs because you probably need it, or just go
Yeah.
into someone's house for a bonfire kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you always have to have something for if your car breaks down and it's inclement weather,
Yeah.
but you also have to have things where if you happen upon like a bonfire in the woods, or you want to go somewhere and do like an outdoor movie or
Yeah.
concert festival, you always have all that stuff because those things just pop up.
Yeah.
Another one is just trash.
Yeah. I
Midwesterners love to store trash in their cars.
what is included in that um just like way too many fast food napkins, not used, but just like you're like, I'm gonna need these.
I collect fast food napkins every time I go to one because I got a runny nose
Yeah.
and I put them in my glove compartment. So I
Oh
always
yeah.
have a fresh stash of napkins in the glove compartment. That has not changed.
Yes, that they always come in handy. You're like, I'm definitely gonna use this at some point. Like it's just
And it's good for spills.
spills. Yeah, that's
Yep.
true.
Anything that spills.
Especially on those long road trips.
Yep, good for cleaning up the hamster poop.
Yeah, because that hamster is just living in your car.
Just lives in there. But yeah, that's the thing that I've noticed about anytime I drive in a friend's car here in LA, they have almost nothing in the car.
Do you
Almost
think
nothing.
I'm gonna get too Fox Newsy here? Do cars get broken into often in LA? Like if you just generally,
I would say as a whole, probably, but I will
okay,
also give a caveat to that, which is since I've lived in California, I've never had my car broken into, knock on wood.
Yeah.
But I did have every single car that I ever owned in Omaha got broken into.
Really?
Yeah, every single one. And keep in mind, I always had the shittiest cars, so
That's
I'm
true.
confused why they were targeting me specifically. I remember there's my AE86 Toyota Corolla that never worked. Instead of fixing it and making it run, I decided that I wanted to buy really, really old, shitty used subwoofers,
Oh, yep.
and so I purchased them for like $100, and I always kept my bowling gear and stuff in
Yeah.
there. And I came out one night, and my passenger side window was broken. My car got broken into. They didn't steal my, those big zip up things of CDs.
Yeah, yep.
They
The
didn't
CD
steal
books.
that, which probably says something about my music taste.
I was about to say they opened it up and were like, this guy has shit taste in music.
Opened it up, turned 3 pages like gay, and then moved on. And then I also had all of my bowling gear, which, by the way, all of my bowling gear is probably worth more than that car total.
Oh yeah, bowling balls get expensive and like shoes and stuff.
Yeah,
Like
so I had all that stuff, and then this shitty set of subwoofers and amplifier, and they stole the subwoofer and amplifier and did not touch the bowling equipment, did not touch anything else, and they didn't even steal the amplifier. They just stole the subwoofers, which were by far the worst part of
part.
everything that they stole. They didn't even hardly work. But yeah, I've gotten multiple cars broken into in Omaha. So for me personally, I'd say it happened to me more in Omaha.
Yeah,
That's also probably just conducive to where I lived all the time. I'd never really lived in very nice areas.
yeah, that's
But
true.
but yeah, as a whole, I think that thievery is running amok probably in California more.
Yeah, and I guess yeah, that's why people probably don't have as much stuff just in cars.
That's a good call. I think also I think also it's probably because people in California are way more vain
Oh
than people
yeah,
in the Midwest, where like people in the Midwest have, if they can afford a nicer car, they go with something that still makes sense,
yeah,
as like, all wheel drive or a truck or something that's good in snow or stuff like
yeah,
that. Whereas with Californians, they will live in a studio apartment with three other people, but will have a Mercedes.
yeah.
So they're a lot more vain about their cars. So I think that has an impact too.
I was honestly when I came back from LA, I was joking with Abby because I drive a Subaru Outback, which are not super nice, but they're nicer
Mm-hmm.
vehicles, but very practical for the Midwest. 4-wheel
Yeah.
drive, like I can like um, take stuff in it. Probably use it more for towing, not towing, but like moving stuff than people in LA use for an actual like pickup truck.
Yeah.
But I was like driving through LA. I think I saw more Porsches than I saw Subarus.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I could almost guarantee that. Also,
Actually, no, it wasn't Porsche. It was Ferraris, and
oh
I was
sure.
like, yeah, and I was like, yep, no one really has those in the Midwest because you could drive them for a week out of a year, where the
Yeah.
weather is decent enough to drive one.
I mean, I think that I would summarize that whole thought process too of like how many fucking Cybertrucks did you see while you were here? I mean, 10, 15 of them.
Yeah, I would say every other car felt like it was the Tesla SUV, whatever that one letter
Yep.
is.
Yeah. So everyone here is way more obsessed with what type of car they drive
Yeah.
than I've never experienced that until I got here. Most people just, like for me, I just bought cars that I could afford with
Yeah.
cash that I didn't have to make payments on. So I'm driving around in a 1972 Buick LeSabre. You know what I mean? That's got 400,000 miles on it.
Uh, this reminds me perfectly. So I was at a wedding in Denver last weekend and saw some people I hadn't seen for a little bit that I worked with in Colorado. And one of them was like, "Hey, do you still have that shitty car?" Where one of my defining personality traits was my shitty car.
That was, I mean, that was me 100. Ask anybody who knew me back in my high school to college years. It was, what's the next shitty car that Damien's going to get? Because they were bad.
But it was great though, because the guy I was talking to, shout out Kasperi, we both like had shitty cars because we worked at the same place and weren't making any money, and so like my car affectionately had the wonky wheel because I had like busted a rim and went to like a sketchy tire repair place. They're like, yeah, we can't fix it, but we can sell you this rim with a tire for like $50, like used tire for $50. And I had that on my car for a year.
It comes from like a fucking F-150, so it's just 2 sizes bigger than the rest of them.
They did say it was the same like wheel and rim circle, but the rim was much bigger, so it was like a very thin tire.
Oh, you got like a high profile tire.
Yeah, yep.
Which is terrible in the Midwest, by the way, because Abby used to drive a Grand Prix, I think.
Yeah.
And they always came with like sport high performance tires. And she got flat tires twice a year, every year, like clockwork.
Yep.
You cannot have low profile tires in Omaha, Nebraska.
Nope. And so luckily it was a back wheel and a front wheel. But so my car was that, but his was like, to get it to work, some system of paper clips with the battery. Like paper clips were used to keep the car going.
Oh, that's perfect. See, like I had my fair share of shitty cars, but I'm not ingenuity. I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't have enough ingenuity to fix the cars like that. So I would pretty much just drive them while things were smoking. Like there's just smoke coming up from the hood. The tires like chugga 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 chugga, and I'm just driving that to work every day until it just doesn't start anymore.
Someone's like, "Hey, man, there's something wrong with your car," and you're like, "No, it isn't."
Yeah, definitely there's something wrong. I'm like, only if you say there's something wrong.
Yeah, if I just ignore it, man.
It's just like alcoholism. It's not a problem until you admit it.
Would you say there are more or less shitty cars on the roads in LA?
Oh, way less.
Way less?
Way less. I think...
Does it go back to that, like, vein part of it? Yes. Or do you think... Okay.
Because the thing is, when you think about... Like, I had to think about it this way, right? It's very rare that people are going to see your place here. People don't... Like, they don't throw a whole lot of house parties, especially if you're not in a nice
I don't know what you're talking about. I went to 2 house parties in my...
They were nice houses, though.
That's true. That's true. They were houses. Also, let's just say that they were they were both nice houses, of course. But like to actually be at people living in houses in LA is still like such a big deal.
Kind of a culture shock for you. I know you weren't really expecting so many people to have homes here. I think you were expecting a lot.
Again, as we talked in one of the other episodes, I thought you lived at the beach.
Yeah, in a cardboard box. So, anyway, so. I think it's more rare for people to see where you live than it is for people to see what you drive. And it's Hollywood, it's LA, it's it's nice weather. So when you have nice weather, you want to have a nice car because you have to drive everywhere. When you have to drive everywhere, millions of people potentially are going to be seeing your car, and you don't want to be caught dead in a clunker.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think even the quote unquote shittier cars here are more on the nicer side than they ever would be in the Midwest, because also you don't have to deal with weather here.
That's
so in the
true.
Midwest, you can go for a lower grade, lower quality, quote unquote appearing car because it's gonna snow, it's gonna hail, it's gonna rain, it's gonna, you're gonna hit potholes all the time. Like, I don't know. It's just not as important.
Yeah, and that's true. And like, also a thing to think about, I noticed everywhere in LA is like valeting your car is such a big thing versus like, I don't think I've ever had my car valeted. Like, first of all, because I would never want another person to get in my car.
Yeah.
Like it's, and then
because they'd have to move everything aside. And you're
yeah,
like, I don't want to explain where the hamster goes.
yeah,
You
you're
know?
like, don't touch the receipts. I need this for
Yeah.
my taxes. No,
Don't
you
throw away
don't.
that straw. I need that.
It could come in handy if they forget a straw through the drive-through again. I'm gonna need that one.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. No, but what I was going to say in regards to valet is in the Midwest, when you hear valet, you immediately go to like fine dining, fancy night out, rich people, being spoiled,
oh yeah, it's
being
gonna be so
privileged.
expensive too. It's I can't
Hmm.
afford that. Like,
Yeah, it's like all that stuff comes along with it in the Midwest,
yeah,
where it's a privilege, it's bougie, right? It's all
yeah,
that stuff. Valet in California is a necessity because they just don't have on-site parking. And
yeah,
so when you go out for a fancy night, they know that they can't park you on site, so they give you no
yeah.
choice but to valet. So you have to pay the 25, $30 to have your car valeted because there is no parking spot.
I in the Midwest also it's a very big thing of like I would do everything possible not to pay for parking. I
Yes.
would do anything. Like I'm like, well, we're walking a mile because I'm not paying the $10.
And how many times did we go out while you were here where I was like,
Yeah.
I'm just going to pay the $25 to park because it's not worth driving around for 45 minutes to try to find a free one.
Yeah, I think that's also a huge thing. And then also like I definitely when I was living in Detroit, I remember people like I had just moved from Nebraska and we're going to the concert. They're like, "Yeah, you're going to have to pay like $50 to park." I'm like, "Fuck no, I'm not paying $50." They're like, "No, you do or else you might not come back to your car. Your car might
Yes.
not be there." They're like, "Pay the $50, make sure it has a lot of security." And yeah, so that was a big adjustment for me to be like, I have to, or like you were talking about, like if you want to go to the forum, you're like, yeah, that's going to be like $80 to park. You're like, what? And they're like, or else you're not going.
Yeah.
Like,
Otherwise, where are you going to park?
yeah,
Or you Uber down there and that's going to be $80. But then I don't get to control the
yeah.
driving. You know what? Like, I just don't, I'm not a huge fan of Uber and stuff like that. I don't know.
I am and am not.
If it's a short distance, I will.
Yeah, it depends on like, also now getting older of being like, of realizing that like DUIs are very expensive. And so like being safe and also now having money to be like, no, we don't risk it at all. Like even
Mm-hmm.
if you had like a few, don't risk it.
Yeah.
Um, I haven't taken an Uber in a very long time though, just because.
I just get motion sick.
Yeah,
When I'm not driving, if I'm in a car, I just get so motion sick because
I
everybody
would.
has such different driving styles.
That's true. Oh god, if it's like a stick shift,
Yeah, and at least if it's a stick shift, you can see their hand moving, so you know what to
that's
expect a little
true.
bit. The thing that bothers me the most is the constant on brake, off brake, on brake, off brake. So you're just
Mm.
like, and you never know when they're gonna hit it or not. So you're just like, I don't
I
know. I
would
just don't
say
like
I
it.
mostly I if I'm traveling, I use Uber. That's probably when I mostly use Uber.
Oh, like when you're in a different like state or whatever.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
last time. Like, getting it from like, the hotel to like the entertainment district. Even if I brought my own car because it's easier that way sometimes.
Well, I don't know if we even mentioned this, but you did actually rent a car while you stayed
I
here.
did.
I didn't think you were going to do that, but I think you did the math of
Yeah,
what is a typical Uber to get to the places that, like, because you obviously came here with ideas of where you wanted to go, what you wanted to
hmm
do, and I think you did the math and realized, I mean, an Uber one way to get there is going to be the cost of one day of renting a car.
yeah, it definitely renting a car was my most expensive expenditure.
But
Um,
it would have been double that if you wouldn't have rented the
yeah,
car.
like you were talking about, I like the freedom of it, and then also like, um, getting into LAX so late
Yeah.
also would have been like, and I hate like, and I wasn't just gonna sit around at your place and like wait for you and Abby like a dog all day to be like, okay, guys, you can play now. Can you come
You
play
guys want
with
to go
me?
out now? I've been
Uh,
patient.
yeah, and I think I drove the rental car. If you like, drove us down. I think to maybe not Santa Monica, but to Hollywood, to West
Yeah,
Hollywood
yeah. We
and
drove we
stuff.
drove in your rental car quite a few times because it's like I don't know if you're gonna rent a car, you should use it.
Yeah, rack up the miles.
Yeah,
And
give
like,
you
yeah,
some credit.
I saw a lot of LA via that rental car, and
You did a
so
you. I will give you credit too. You did a lot of different things while you were here in a very short amount of time. I mean, you went to two house parties, you
yep,
went to the comedy store, you went to a different comedy club, you went to two museums. I'm
yep,
sure
went
we've
to
already covered this, but
yeah.
I don't know when this episode is going to come out in order.
Oh yeah, in
So
the order of it, and then yeah, I went to the beach as
oh yeah,
well.
we went to the
Even
beach
though
twice.
yeah, yeah, I went to the Santa Monica area twice, and so that was cool.
Yeah, and then
And
obviously, we didn't even do most of the things that I wanted to show you because I was like, well, we can't do that without Abby being there.
yeah, like all the
So
like the typical touristy stuff we're saving. I wanted to save like we're gonna do the kitschy like stars tour on the double decker bus and
yeah,
like actually go into Hollywood and do the studio tours and like
we got to do the Warner Brothers tour too while
yes.
you guys are here because that is so much fun.
Yep. And then like I know I just talked so much shit on all of Disney. Both me and Abby's never been to any Disney park ever.
Oh, I didn't know
Um
that.
yeah, so
Well,
and I've been
now because of you, she's not going to be allowed.
yep. I'll have to wear a disguise. They'll still somehow know. So yeah, I think even though Disneyland's like $12 trillion now, we'll probably go to at least the OG park.
It's worth it to go just because it's so iconic.
Yeah.
Like you just have to go once.
Yeah. And like I've done all the parks in Orlando because I have family who lives out there and
Hmm.
I did it back, when I was a small child. So I think it was at least fairly inexpensive back in the day
Yeah,
compared to what it is now. Um,
yeah, yeah. Tickets
and
now are I can't even remember
I think
honestly.
like
They're pricing.
200 bucks.
Yeah, they're pricing us out. We can't really afford to go to Disney that often anymore. We used to go every weekend because we had a pass,
Yeah.
and then they made the passes unaffordable, and then they raised the price of just a day ticket. So we're like, all right, well,
Cause have you been to Disney Orlando?
yes, multiple times.
Okay. So is Disneyland like Magic Kingdom in Disney World?
Uh,
Or like, how does it compare? Or does it
no,
compare?
Disney. So Disney World is a multifaceted, multi-day
Yeah. They have,
experience.
it's four different parks.
It's
Yeah,
four
four.
different parks, and
Each are very
there's
distinct.
just
Like,
they're very different. They're very distinct. Like for instance, Disneyland has two parks. They have
yep.
Disneyland and California Adventure.
Yeah.
If you go to just Disneyland and don't go to California Adventure, you're not missing out on much. If you go to
That's,
California Adventure and don't go to Disneyland, you're really only missing the classic Disney feel, but you're
okay.
not missing the experience. You're just missing like the old school Disney feeling.
Okay.
Um, with Disney World, you should not go if you can't go to every park because
Yeah.
one part, like for instance, you could do a park hopper in Disneyland if you wanted, and in in one day. So let's just call it 18 hours.
Yeah.
You could easily do Disneyland in 9 hours, and then you'd go
Okay.
for the next 9 hours to California Adventure, and you'd actually be a little bored. Like
Wow.
you would run out of stuff to do.
Yeah.
But you can spend over 18 hours per one park in Orlando and
That's
still
true.
not hit everything.
Yeah. Because the only one I haven't done in Orlando is the animal one.
Animal Kingdom, yeah,
Yeah.
that one's fun too because they have a fucking safari.
Yeah. But yeah, because I think like whenever I always recommended people like do Magic Kingdom if you want the authentic Disney experience. If you want the
Yeah.
Main Street, you want the classic rides as you were talking about, that
Right.
old Disney feel. That's the one. So I was wondering with Disneyland if the main park is kind of like that feeling, and it sounds like it kind of
Yes.
is.
Yeah. It's very so Disneyland is very um it's like a very reserved style of Magic Kingdom,
Okay.
and California Adventure is a very small reserved part of like Epcot in
Oh,
Orlando,
really? Epcot. Okay.
because
Because
like
it's
Epcot is for adults.
yeah, and it's around the world, and I'm guessing California. Because what I remember watching the Disney Channel when they made California, it was very much like Epcot, but instead of having every country from the world, it was just very specifically like California.
Yes, it's California based. There's alcohol. There's like more adult, like that's where the roller coaster is, because Disneyland doesn't really
Yeah,
have a roller coaster. It has
yeah,
more of the Disney themed rides.
and
But
the
you know,
and also Abby's never been to Universal Studios
that's another great
uh,
one.
of
But
either.
also the universe, it's the same thing. The Universal Studios in Florida, I mean, 10 times better.
Well, yeah, it's so massive.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And I
because
think
you
that's part of it too. Is they have just more to work with in
they have just all
Florida.
the land, like because Anaheim, that's where Disneyland is, right?
Yeah, Anaheim, and they did just actually sign something to expand Disneyland, the
Oh,
actual property line.
yeah,
So they're working on expanding that as well. So it's only going to be a few more years before Disneyland is,
up and
you
yeah,
know, the size of Anaheim.
yeah. It's just all because yeah, I've also heard like with that Disneyland, like the area around it's kind of like not grungy, but like
I mean,
tourist
it's
trap.
just well, it's just hotels.
Yeah, and not like great
Anything
hotels.
now, anything that's not Disney property but is surrounding the Disney property
Yeah,
is hotels and chain restaurants.
versus like again, like it's its own city.
Yeah,
Disney World in Orlando. Well, it's like Kissimmee. Like it's literally its own thing, and so
it's the Altoona, Iowa of Florida.
oh god, shout out to
Altoona,
Adventure.
shout out Adventureland.
Hey, I used to do a few comedy shows in Altoona
Like
at the Hawkeye.
while you're riding a roller coaster, you're doing stand up.
Well, no, I drive past the park on the way there, which is funny. But yeah, this little small bar in Altoona, Iowa, they'd pay me to do comedy there. Sadly,
That's hilarious.
yeah,
Sadly,
the entire time we were there, we lived there the whole like almost 3 years. We never went to Adventureland.
I don't blame you.
It's
To
like
be honest,
again, it's there's no theme to it. It's just it's called Adventureland, and then like it's too expensive for what it is. It's like $80,
yeah.
which for some people probably is worth it, but it's like no.
No, it's very, to use your words, it's very grungy. It's very like,
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know.
like
I don't know that I trust much of anything there. It doesn't seem like
which
they're.
we've gone over in other episodes, of
Yeah.
course, but
You drinking a Coors?
oh yeah, baby.
Is that a
Coors
light?
Banquet. No, it's Coors
Oh,
Heavy.
the real. You need those carbs today, huh?
I didn't run today. I actually
Oh shit.
messed up my Achilles a little, so I'm taking a little time off.
We're both nursing injuries then, huh?
What's your injury?
I royally fucked up my lower back during basketball. I think I've mentioned it in the previous episode, but I'm in a
From putting the team on your back?
yes, yeah, literally. I'm in a basketball league for work.
Do you play with
And
LeBron James?
no, I couldn't carry that guy. He's like 275 pounds.
He's a big dude.
He's a big
I've
man.
never. That is one player I would love to see play that is like all time list, but that I haven't with all the games we've gone to, and like I'm never going to be able to see him in LA now that his son's playing, and like I know
Why
there's only a
not?
few. You know how expensive tickets are going to be in LA?
Yeah, but I mean, so
It's easier probably to catch him if he come like goes to like Minneapolis and make the 6 hour drive to see him play in
yeah,
Minneapolis than
that's
it
a good
is.
point. There you go. That's a good point. Or OKC, that'd be a fun one.
Yeah, because he's of like the big names, the only of like our like that generation. He's the only one I haven't seen play yet.
Yeah, same actually. I've never seen LeBron
Because
play.
yeah, I've seen Steph back when he was like a rookie.
Oh wow.
I saw him play at the Spurs in San Antonio, and tickets were
Oh
like
yeah,
less than $5
that's awesome.
because they were terrible. They were
See,
so
that's the
terrible.
thing about living in LA is every single sports game that you want to go to is expensive because
Yeah,
it's Los Angeles. They're the top of the top. You
it's
got Clippers,
either
Lakers. You got the hockey team.
both
You
hockey
got the
teams.
yeah, both hockey teams. You got the Galaxy. I mean, all of them are pretty big deals.
That is the one thing I wish we could have done, and what we might have. Well, when we come to visit, it's going to probably be like winter-ish. But I would love to go to a Dodgers game. I really
Okay,
was think
we've been to a
I
couple.
was
They're great.
we were like I was debating about it, but that Abby is probably a bigger baseball fan than I am. But she would have been super pissed if I went to a Dodgers game without her.
Yeah, we can plan
But
that. It's fun. And honestly, through our work, we get a lot
yeah.
of discounts
Oh,
because they
nice.
partner with. I don't think I've ever said the name of my job, but I don't think
Yeah.
I need to. But we get a lot
Yeah.
of discounted tickets.
Which makes sense. You work for a fairly large employer for
Yeah,
your area.
yeah,
And that's the nice thing about baseball is like of tickets are usually fairly inexpensive because there's 152 games.
yep,
So 76 of them are probably going to be at home. So there's some, and then like, and they're like back to back 3 days in a row. So no one wants to go to fucking all three games when they're in town.
And
And
worst
like,
case scenario, we could always do a road trip and go see the Padres in San
yeah, that's
Diego
true.
because that's a
That
really fun
stadium,
stadium.
yeah. And like baseball, what I love about baseball is if you don't give a shit about baseball, you can still go and have a good time because
Yeah,
it's
we don't
more
give a
like
shit at all.
more about a social experience. Like it's more about the hang than the
Oh
actual
yeah,
game for a lot of baseballs. And like that's what I miss about going back to the theme of this podcast, which we rarely do
I
now.
know.
What I miss about like living in Denver, because they have the Rockies there and their stadium's great. It's like right in the heart of their like downtown entertainment district, and they just really opened up this really cool entertainment district next to the stadium. Like it's right next to their major train station too.
Mm-hmm.
And Denver has a good public. But yeah, we'd be like me and Abby would be like kind of like a day to like today, just be like wake up and be like, what we got going on? Oh, nothing. Well, let's see. Let's jump on like a StubHub and see how much tickets. Hey, you want to go to a game for like $5? Grab a beer before and
Yeah.
then like go to the game. And like that's what we would do. And like we got to see some again, you don't really care about baseball, but we got to see some pretty big name stars just
Mm-hmm.
because like people don't want to go to a 1 o'clock Sunday game. And so,
No, I love baseball games because I don't really care about baseball, but it is still fun. It's a fun game to watch.
yeah,
But also, come on, we're going to a public place with thousands upon thousands of people surrounding you. You get to do the wave, you get to talk
yeah,
shit, you get to have beer, you get to have junk food, you go with some friends, and you just, I mean, it's great. It's a great hang, like you said. I really enjoy going to Dodgers games. So yeah, next time you guys come out, let's plan for either that or a Padres game.
yeah. I think we talked about. I think we're gonna try to come in like February because
Okay.
February in the Midwest is literally the most
Hell.
miserable experience. But we have to figure it out because so Abby's like on a 2-person team,
Mhm.
and her coworker is really amazing, but she's due to have twins,
Get her on the
and
pod.
in like March, so, and it's going to be on like Abby works for a very good place, and so they give for Nebraska amazing maternity leave. So we have to leave before we have to go on our trip before that happens because she's going to
Yeah.
be out for like
I mean, it's gonna be like 6 months probably.
not that high. We're not California, but but for Nebraska, like I think 4 months,
Yeah, I mean,
which
take the time when you can, because otherwise, yeah, you just wait half a year to do another trip. It's just I don't know, do it when you
Yeah.
can.
And I want to do it like, when like I think I'm almost going to enjoy it more because as I joked about when I came to visit, it was actually cooler in LA than it was Nebraska at that time.
Yep,
And it's
I
going to be
think it
feel
still is.
Yeah, today is miserable. People who are listening can't say I'm wearing a wife beater just because it is so hot here. It is actual temperature 103 plus humidity, so it's like close to 110. Like it's disgusting here. It's
Yeah, I think it's
miserable.
83 here today, so all the windows are open.
Yeah.
Having a good day. So,
Yeah, next week though is supposed to be in like the mid 70s.
ooh,
So we're about
nice.
to hit that like Nebraska fall or just Midwest falls in general is like what keeps you here. It's
Yeah,
like the leaves are about to start changing here pretty soon and
I
like it's going
do
to become
love
spooky
that.
season.
Yes,
Like
that's why
we
instead of going back for the holidays now, we go back for fall.
yeah,
It's just it's so pretty and it's not as intense.
we we bought a Halloween decoration today.
Oh yeah,
It's a they were a real big hit on TikTok last year. Now we wanted one, but like they like sold out instantly. But Home Depot has like a like plastic lawn thing of a golden retriever dressed as a ghost with a like jack-o'-lantern
that's adorable.
bucket. Yeah. And like we don't have he's a Pickles isn't, full golden, but he's mostly golden. And so
We should do a Halloween cast. We should do a Halloween podcast.
we should once it comes that spooky time of year. Which is
Yeah,
funny
I
because
love
like
Halloween.
I think we may have talked about this on the podcast. You and your Abby love like scary movie, like legit
Oh yeah.
scary movies.
Hmm.
And me and my Abby are like, don't like them. Abby for sure is like, not at all, not a fan. But we love like kids Halloween movies.
Hocus Pocus,
Hocus
Halloween
Pocus.
Town.
My favorite one. It's like a cult classic now. Not a lot of people. It's called Monster Squad.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. I've seen that one.
Uh, yeah,
I'll
it's
give
one of
you
my favorite.
I'll give you another recommendation. This goes
Yeah.
out to anybody who's listening as well. If you haven't seen it, check out the movie Monster House.
Yes, that's
That
another on the
is
rotation.
one of, no joke, one of the best Halloween movies of all time.
It's pretty great, and there's some really funny, like kind of dirty lines. Because the
Oh
one I'm
yeah.
thinking about, they're like, the house has a uvula. Oh, so it's a
So it's a
girl house.
girl house.
I shouldn't be quoting films that I'm not 100% sure if that's the line or not, because I'll be
Shout out to Chowder, dude. I love that guy.
dude shout. And yeah, so I love like, yeah, like they're kind of spooky, but not really spooky,
Mm.
kind of.
I'm a big fan of those too, though. I love a good. The I think the thing is the difference is just I love a good theme. So if you
Yes.
embrace the theme, whether it's scary, not scary, funny, whatever, as long as you're sticking to the theme, I'm a big fan.
But I also really like a good horror comedy or comedy horror, whatever way you
Like
want to
Shaun
put
of the
that.
Dead.
Shaun of the Dead or
That's probably, to be honest, that's probably the best horror spoof.
that is one of my favorite films just in general.
Agreed.
For sure because it's hilarious. I also will put up Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
That's a good one.
That is up, and what kind of
Sharknado.
Sharknado. What triggered it was have you seen the trailer for Y2K yet?
Yes, I'm really
That
stoked for
like
that.
Yeah, we watched just the trailer, and even Abby was like, "I'm not watching that," just based off the trailer. But I'm like, "It's Kyle Mooney." Like,
Yeah,
she was like, "Yeah," but they're like, it had in the trailer, like from the producers who did Hereditary, and I was like, "That okay, I
that
get
makes
like,
sense because Hereditary was straight up terrifying.
yeah." But she's also very much that like I get it of like gory horror where it's just more of like gore porn
I
than
call it gorer instead
yeah,
of horror.
like the Saw movies, which are like concept good, but it's also like it
It's a
kind
little
of takes me
overkill.
out of it. Yeah, it's like at a certain point, I feel like those films just got gory for gore's sake and
Yeah.
not for story.
You know what's actually some other good Halloween movies that aren't actually that scary, but are I compare they're the They're the Fast and Furious franchise of horror. I'm sure you know what I'm about to say.
I actually don't. I'm very curious. You have me
Final
on the edge.
Destination.
Okay. Yep.
Final Destination is one of my favorite franchise horror movies, because it is the Fast and Furious of it, where it's like the concept is so open to interpretation. You can do
Yeah.
anything with it, and they just go. They start out great. The first two are awesome, and then they just go absolutely berserk, and they just go, let's just throw caution to the wind, and let's just make it just a
As
dumb,
bonkers
scary
as
movie.
yes.
I love
I
every single one of them.
I also really enjoy like I don't want to say classic horror movies, but like, the Elm Streets
Mm-hmm.
where they're still a good story. The Halloweens, like they're creepy in like a good way, but also
Mm-hmm.
not over the top.
How do you feel about Psycho?
I love Alf. Like, God, that's fucking. Let me put on my hipster glasses and talk about Hitchcock. Except the movie The Birds. The Birds.
That
I watched
movie
that.
scared the shit out of me. I still hate birds because of that.
That's why we're best. Like, some best friends here. Of like, I watched that film way too young as a child because my
Mm-hmm.
dad thought I could handle it. Yeah. And then we proceeded like a year later, like to go to the beach in Florida, and my dad was feeding French fries to seagulls. And if you want you to start feeding seagulls, like I was crying.
Oh yeah, yeah. I still cry when birds are around.
And Abby even makes fun because I for most birds I fucking hate them because they're gross. They poop everywhere. They carry disease. They're rats with wings for the most part. And we live in like a neighborhood. We have at least like cool birds. Birds like you can be like, yeah, that's Blue Jay or that's a cart. Like birds you can name, not just like
you're like, yeah, that's Jerry.
Yeah,
that's George.
Jerry.
Yeah, you just name them.
We actually had a bird come down. Like I don't know how it came into like not in our house, but like somehow like an outside vent they got through, and it was a woodpecker.
Oh god damn it!
And we were like hearing this banging noise in the basement. We're like, what the fuck is that? And I finally like my basement's super old too, so it's like 100 years old, so it's kind of creepy in some spots. And I had to get like not in a crawl space, but it was like between the outside wall, like old, like like brick wall, and like a false wall that is maybe 2 feet, and then so I'm having to go to it, and it's like a like sealed off pipe vent, and I'm having to pry it out, and I was like, what's this noise? And like I like open it, and it's just a dead woodpecker.
Oh shit!
Which is fucking terrifying.
Yeah,
but I'm like also
big too.
They are, and it's just the eye because I like shine a light into it, and it's just the eye, and so I'm like, well, I have to get it out, or it's gonna start fucking stinking.
Yeah.
And so I had to like just like fucking like scoop it out, and like it just like I put like a trash bag and it just like thudded into a trash bag. It was an experience for sure.
You're a better man than me. I would probably open up that little crawl space, see a dead bird, and scream, and then close it and go back upstairs. And be like, I didn't find anything. And then
what was that scream?
2 weeks later, when it starts to smell, I will just purchase all of the candles and be like, I don't know what it is, but
just air fresheners everywhere.
We'll just spray Febreze,
Yeah, but is spooky season different in LA because you don't get a proper fall?
That's actually a really good point, and I can't remember if we've talked about this before. But I think holidays here are. How do I say this? So, like, for instance,
we've talked about Christmas, but I was going
to bring up Christmas, but I think we've already talked about it. But like, you can decorate whenever you want, right? So I think the difference is that people in the Midwest extend the holiday.
Yeah.
Because they have a finite amount of space and time to prepare for it, right?
Yeah.
But in California, if Halloween's on the 31st, they will maybe decorate the weekend before.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Whereas in the Midwest, it's the month of October.
I was about to say, we bought that dog today, and we talked about like, okay, October 1st is when we can put it out.
Exactly. Like, The second October hits, you are starting to decorate for spooky season. And in California, people go all out, but
Yeah.
it's for a very short amount of time. So I would
I think,
almost prefer the longer
yeah.
season as opposed to going all out for 3 days, because then it's just a waste of time.
But I think one big aspect of spooky season kind of is the weather here of like it starts to get cool at night, the leaves are falling, and it's a little windy. It's breezy, but not super windy.
Yeah.
And you'll be out like there'll be times where I'm like, it'll be like fall, October. It's really nice outside, but I'm like, it's like 10 p.m. at night. It's very dark. I'm like, oh shit, I have to go check out the trash. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like wheeling out the trash, and then like a breeze, and you just hear the leaves skidding across the concrete, and you're like, ooh, spooky.
Well,
Like,
I love that because that's what I always felt too. The reason that spooky season matters so much more in the Midwest is because that turn of the tide of weather
yes,
makes you feel like that whole time you're actually being haunted.
yes,
Like the weather, the temperature, the sun setting early, that
yep,
crisp like fall. Whereas
oh,
it's like that winter breeze, but it's
yep,
still the temperature is decent, but that breeze is cold,
yeah.
right? So you feel like if I go outside at 7 p.m., I might not make it back. Like somebody might
It
come and get me, you know?
It's weird. Like in the middle of summer, if I go out at night, not like in the middle of the night, but if it's dark out, like I'm taking out the trash, like completely fine. But yeah, when you do it in the fall, it's just like there's like a little bit like a tingling sense to it of like,
Yeah. You're
ooh,
taking out the trash and you're like, there's a good chance that I will just go into the trash.
yeah.
Someone's gonna kill me and dump me in this trash can, and I'm not going back up.
And it's 100% because yeah, it's a little cooler, the leaves and like
Hmm.
the atmosphere of it is
Well, then
just,
not only
but
that, but
you,
then the color changing of all of
yeah,
the foliage is just like, I
yeah,
mean, it's breathtaking. I've probably talked about this too much at this point of this podcast, but if you're gonna go to the Midwest or Nebraska in specific, you have to go in autumn.
yeah.
You
Oh,
have to. There's
it's
nothing else like it. You will see the allure of Nebraska specifically if you go what maybe end of September into
yeah,
like early
October.
November.
Yeah, the month of October is like amazing
It's
here.
incredible.
It's yeah, it's the perfect temperature, which we don't get a lot. And then yeah, like I live in a neighborhood with like super old trees, and so like it's so beautiful.
Hmm.
I fucking hate raking all the leaves, but like it definitely make like for sure me and my Abby's favorite season is fall because it's just in the Midwest amazing. It makes you put up with a lot of shit of like also the transition of like summer it's way too hot and then winter's gonna suck. So you
Yeah.
really just enjoy it versus like you think spring would be nice, but spring kind of sucks here as well
Spring sucks in the Midwest. I don't like. It's my
because
least favorite.
it's it's still kind of cold and just wet.
Yeah.
It's very rainy
Because
and
at
wet,
least
and
when
you
it's winter in the Midwest, you know it's winter. Like
yeah
it's snowy, it's shitty, it's gray, and you know that it's going to be freezing and
yeah
kind of shitty. But the spring, you're looking for a reprieve from that,
yeah.
and it's really just not snowy, but it's still
It's
everything
just
else.
windy. It's
Yeah,
so windy.
yeah,
And then and you're like, well, it could snow or it could be 100 degrees. I'm not sure.
yep.
But yeah, fall, you're like, oh, it's going to be 60. I got to wear a nice sweatshirt.
Hmm.
Might have a nice bonfire somewhere. Like,
Yes.
it was always my
Oh,
favorite time to go out to the bars and stuff. Like,
that just struck me because we have bonfires all the time here too, and I always grew up having bonfires and stuff with friends. But god damn it, dude, you wake up. Let's just say it's October 15th.
yep.
You wake up, you have this nice overcast day. It's like 60 degrees. You throw the pigskin around.
Yeah.
You're like having a good day, and then 5 o'clock hits where the sun starts setting, and all of a sudden, from every which direction, it's just the smell of bonfire.
Oh,
Every single night from that point until Halloween, that's what's in the air every night around sunset. It's just like you can't beat that. It's like the equivalent of the sound of cicadas.
yes. Yeah. And like also, I think a huge part from different places I live, and I don't think it's probably a very big thing in California, I think it's more like in the Northeast, it's big, but even the Midwest, apple orchards,
Mm-hmm.
getting like good cider or apple donuts, like
Oh my
oh,
god, dude. Yeah. Also, no one does a pumpkin patch quite like the Midwest.
oh god, even Nebraska, like you tell people about Vala's pumpkin patch and like outside of Omaha, it's now to a point it's almost theme park level
Yeah, we
of like
went.
niceness.
We went. God, what was that? 23 or 22? The fall of 2022 or 23. I can't
Yeah,
remember. We went back and we went to Vala's with Abby's mom, and we
yeah,
stayed for 12 hours.
yeah. See, Vala's is going back to how I like my Halloween. Vala's is the perfect amount of spookiness for
Yep.
me. Even their spooky haunted house is not that. I want to say that though about haunted houses, especially since where we grew up in LA has some of the most bonkers haunted houses
Oh yeah.
because of the. But I think that we'll save that for our Halloween episode.
Hmm.
But yeah, and maybe we'll even save Valos for that as
Yeah,
well.
we'll go into depth about it too because there's a lot I like to talk about with that.
It's and it's just like yeah, I just grew up going to that, and then you go to other places, and they're like, wait, you would go to the pumpkin patch every year? You
As
and
a
they're like, yeah,
family too.
you'd be like, yeah, we made a day of it, and they're like, what do you mean? You just didn't go and grab a pumpkin and leave?
No, no.
Like, oh no.
There's a
I think we've
whole
talked about the
thing.
pig races, and again,
Yes.
I don't want to get too into it because will have to go off. Maybe when you depending, do you know when you're coming back yet, or is just
Nothing on the
scheduled
books
full?
right now.
Okay, I was about to say that'd be great if we could make a pumpkin patch. I would
But
definitely
it
take the day
won't
off.
be it won't be Halloween because I have family coming out here for Halloween.
That checks out.
Yeah. So, anyways, I think that'll
We're
probably
at
do
the
it for this
hour.
episode. So, thanks for tuning in, and once again, apologies to all of my fellow Disney adults for Christian's actions. We will
There'll be a
correct that.
video as soon as we're done with this.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.